Hi everybody, and thanks for tuning in today. I'm so delighted to be joined by Michelle. Michelle, welcome along. Thanks for coming on board today.
Hi Una, thanks so much for having me. Pleasure.
No problem. So today we're going to look at a very series of different topics, but to just give a bit of background to Michelle. So Michelle is a former Montessori teacher and she's also a Reiki practitioner, but currently very much involved in the emotional development space of children. So hopefully a very interesting topic for many of our parents and teachers and listeners today. Myself, I run a business called Blossom4Life that provides tuition for people with learning difficulties, primarily also kids. So obviously this platform might be catered more towards people that are a younger demographic. However, some tips and tricks that we'll talk about today hopefully will be suitable for all ages. So Michelle, so we were briefly linking in there about some bits of resources and some things that you think might be useful. So would you like to kick things off of what comes to mind initially?
Yeah, sure. So working in the Montessori space for the last 8 years and really recognizing that both children and families are very overwhelmed with emotions and being able to regulate their emotions. So I kind of wanted to focus in on this and help families and children to recognize that there are ways of overcoming this, and the smallest of steps make the biggest of difference. So I'm actually at the moment doing this emotional resilience course with 2 girls. And so I'm going to show you a few resources that I've been using, which I found really helpful.
Great.
And maybe then anyone can try it themselves at home. Or even teachers can introduce it into the classroom. I think that's a really important piece.
Fabulous. And would you have used some of those resources in while you were teaching already, Michelle, or are these new resources that you've come across recently, or is there a mix?
So it's a combination of both. I would have used a few of the resources, but also kind of introducing new ones as well as I go, because there's so much information out there. So I'm just trying to really get all the information, all the resources, and just have a little pack ready to go for children and families.
Fabulous.
So
Great. Yeah.
a little.
Yeah, we'll kick off with one or two that you'd like to start off with.
I'll show you basically one of the main concepts are the puppets. So these are emotional puppets, as you can see, angry, and they're all color coded into different emotions. So angry is red, yellow, green, blue, and this is just a way for children to do a bit of role play about expressing and talking about emotions, because I think a lot of the time emotions are held in, and then that's what happens. They kind of explode and it builds up and builds up. So what this program really helps with is to help not let that build up and get these emotions out, and in a calm way as well. So yeah, the emotion puppets are great. I'll give you a little link on those. And then what I've done, so we have in the program, we have developed our own kind of extensions on to these. So these are little emotion jars. So I have all the different colors of the emotions. And what you do is you get a little lollipop stick. You can do this easily at home. Get a little lollipop stick and you get a picture of the child or everyone in the family actually. And then if at some point during the day they're feeling a bit angry or something, what they can do is take their picture, pop it into the jar. In this way, if they don't feel like talking about it, it's okay, but it will let the other family members know, or the children in the classroom or whoever will know, okay, so-and-so is feeling angry, maybe we should give them some space.
Fabulous. Really good communication tool as well, Michelle, like without them having to vocalize what their emotion is, it's, I suppose, indicating that to other people within a household or within a classroom, but in a different format.
Exactly. It's an indirect way rather than sitting down and saying, what's wrong with you? Because children and adults often can't identify what it is that they're feeling.
And would you encourage, Michelle, let's say for a few kids maybe in a household, or I hope there's parents or the guardians looking after them, would you encourage that the other parents get involved and an older demographic get involved in those activities also?
100%. I think the most important thing is that everyone in the family is involved, because role modeling is number one. So if children can see that adults are able to express their emotions, that they're able to talk about things, or even able to engage with talking about things or emotions, that's really important for children to feel heard. So yeah, I think one of the most important things is for the adults to get involved as well. And it's actually great for adults.
Yeah, they build kind of a bond then as well. So if the kids are doing it and the adults are doing it, as you mentioned there, it's good for adults. You know, there's definitely a huge amount of emotional development that we all need as we get through life, no matter what age we are. So this isn't specifically a task for kids. Might seem, you know, slightly at a younger age with jars and with colours. However, if it works, what difference does it make if it's a jar, if it's colour, if it helps a person with expressing their emotions? Who cares, really? You know?
Exactly. And I think you start off with the jars and you start off with the puppets, and then you can build on, and soon they won't need puppets, but it's just starting those steps of being able to start.
Yeah, and hopefully then it becomes more of an ingrained habit. So as you mentioned, you won't need the puppets, you might need the jars, but it gets you into that practice and routine of trying to communicate emotions to others. Really good.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good. And you were mentioning some of the books as well. So some of the books.
So yeah, so that's another, obviously being a teacher, I love books. So I have some really cute ones which talk about feelings. So this one is called In My Heart, and it goes through every emotion and every feeling and just really normalizes it for children. And it's also, again, the colors, so it incorporates the kind of themes of that. So I read that to the girls the other day and they absolutely loved it. Another one that I have.
And what kind of age group would you think the In My Heart one would be for, Michelle, generally speaking? Will you hold up some of the font there maybe for us?
Yeah, sorry. So I'll give you a link of this as well. So I would say the age group of this would be even from 2.5 to, I'd say, I'm going to say 12, because it is actually very adaptable. Now, the 2.5 might not understand everything, but that's okay too. You know, there's lovely pictures.
Perfect. Will you give us a sample there of what some of the pages might be like?
So,
oh, that's lovely.
Really.
Oh, fabulous. So the heart goes the whole way back with all the
whole way back, yeah. And so my heart is full of feelings, big feelings and small feelings, loud feelings and quiet feelings, quick feelings and slow feelings. My heart is like a house with all of these feelings living inside. And then it goes through all the feelings.
Lovely.
So it really is. It's a beautiful one for the home.
Fabulous illustrations as well.
Yeah.
It was great. Really.
And also if parents wanted to put it in a little box with these kind of tools. And I have another one as well. This is by Louise Hay. So what I've really noticed is children, a lot of the time their self-confidence, not even children, but adults as well, really has suffered over the years with people telling them certain things and just putting them down. And the most important things that you hear are actually the words that you say to yourself. So this is really going back to the importance of what you think you become. Yeah. So it's really just focusing children in on positive thinking. So that's a lovely one as well.
I think there's such a fabulous generational change with books. I know we've spoken about it before, Michelle, but it's so fabulous to have so many, you know, emotional development books and emotion-based books and how to give back and help people. Like, I think there's been a huge wavelength and growth in that space to all authors and illustrators. Really, it's been really fabulous to communicate quite evolved and grown up messages. You know, like as we mentioned about emotions, there's lots of adults that, you know, can't communicate, don't understand their emotions. So it's a strange concept at times to think that kids now, the younger generation, even below us, will be able to hopefully evolve and develop in a different space through some of these books and through some of these graphics.
Exactly. And it comes back to, I think it's a very much a generational thing of feelings and emotions being suppressed over the years, but now there's definitely a shift towards this, and it's definitely moving in the right direction. So it's about giving children and adults the tools to be able to express themselves freely, but also being conscious of others. And yeah, so actually I have another, I'll show you, just speaking about positive thoughts and everything. So this is another company called Be Kind to Your Mind, and they have positive affirmation cards for children. So they have 30 cards, and every day a child can pick a card. So within the pack, you'll see lots of different things, and they're beautiful illustrations as well. And they're just really simple, but really, really effective. Like, I am brave. And the more children start to hear that, the more they believe that. And it's just really a game changer for
And
children.
it's really, as you said, affirmations, it's really reaffirming things that we all need to hear, no matter what age we are. That, like, it, I suppose, with a culture thing, it's not something that we hear quite regularly, even as adults. Nobody comes up really and tells us anymore, oh, you're really brave, or oh, you're really this and really that. You know, we kind of get through day to day and probably don't really take things on board that easily or that well, and probably don't give them out easily that well either. I think as we get older, we might not see it as, oh, we shouldn't say that to somebody, that they're really brave, or, you know, so it's really important.
Sorry to interrupt. I think especially for Irish people, we're like renowned for, oh no, would you stop? Like, you can't take a compliment or hear a compliment about yourself. So it's just about changing that mentality of, do you know what, I am brave, and giving children that kind of mindset at a young age as well, so then it can lead on into the rest of their lives, you know.
So they can kind of flourish and nourish themselves as they develop and grow up, and all of those key attributes which all of us really have at the end of the day. Like, we wouldn't be, I suppose, here on the planet if we couldn't, you know, get on with things and do things, or go into school, or do things that are challenging to people every single day throughout their life. So those things are evident in everybody, really, but it's just, I suppose, an inner critic that we probably give out to ourselves and beat ourselves up too much about.
Too harsh on ourselves. So we need to give ourselves a bit of love.
Really good. And let's say from the teaching capacity, Michelle, so obviously you'd have interacted with lots of different kids in different age groups and throughout many years. Did you find that obviously the emotional development in this space obviously really important for kids throughout school? And have you any examples or any situations that you can think of offhand that might be useful to share today?
Yeah, so I think especially, so I've been teaching for about 8 years, and especially in the last 2 or 3 years, the teaching profession has become quite tough, in the sense of we're seeing more and more children now with learning difficulties, with concentration issues, just like emotional regulation. You know, there's more and more kind of pressure on teachers and parents, I think, as well, and children, of course. So yeah, I've definitely noticed in children, this is why I wanted to go on to develop this course, because I noticed that a lot of them just are unable to manage their emotions, and it's just about giving them the tools and the tips. So like that with the puppets and the jars, like, we saw such amazing transformations of children who came in completely unable to manage any kind of change. And I think that's a main thing for children now, change. And this was before coronavirus, so, you know, afterwards it's going to be even more prevalent. So yeah, just about, I suppose, seeing that children needed this, and not just children but adults as well, needing this space of feeling totally supported, and giving them the tools to be able to overcome these kind of overwhelming emotions.
Completely. And did you find from, let's say, a teacher capacity, Michelle, that this aspect was able to be fitted in, let's say, along with, I know, Beth, the curriculum and all the other things that the teachers need to get in? I know you're at the Montessori level, but even at a primary, and as we work our way up, do you think it's feasible, and hopefully obviously extremely needed and extremely valuable, but how did you incorporate bits of this into your, let's say, day or week to week plan?
Yeah, so the thing about teaching is it's very time demanding. So when you're with the children, you want to be present with the children. So any time for planning is really, really important. So spending time prepping the classroom, and often that's done out of teaching hours, which is a shame, but hopefully that will change. But yeah, so it's just really about kind of having the time to be able to set up your classroom, and often that isn't the case. Especially I was very lucky being in a Montessori school in Dublin, and there was 2 teachers per classroom, so we would have time when it was quiet maybe to go off and do some planning and extracurricular, which is really, really important.
Really important, yeah.
What do they say? Prepare to fail and fail to prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big one. And I think teachers often find that really, really hard to balance. And therefore it ends up being in their own time, which is an absolute shame.
And
So
did you find, let's say, that you would have just literally scheduled in bits of these aspects, Michelle, so even the puppets or, you know, other tools that you'd have used in school, would you have, let's say, right, on a Tuesday at this particular time we might look at this, or was it more at an ad hoc basis? Let's say if John or Julie were having issues in a particular day, then you might bring them in. Was it, did you kind of alternate it that way, or was it a set schedule?
It was a set schedule. So we would have a set 1 hour planning time a week. It was totally up to you what you spent that time on. You could do curriculum planning, or like that, I preferred to bring in these kind of tools into the classroom and spend my time on that.
Fabulous. Well, that's great, you know, that there's some bits of scope. I know it's a very tight, rigorous schedule, very condensed academic year from all perspectives, and kind of nearly at this stage every hour and every day is allotted for. So it is very time constrained. So for any of the teachers, I suppose, watching, that there is always scope to try and fit those in. Yes, you do require planning and preparation, as Michelle was saying, but it's definitely something that has a massive amount of payoff, both for yourself as a teacher, but also for the kids and for their family and development going forward. And it might actually even be something that they remember in years to come. You know, obviously a teacher influence is so valuable, that educational context, but it might be that one thing that in years down the line they remember, oh, this person or this teacher taught me about these things when I was this age. You know, it might actually have that lasting long-term impact.
That's the hope and the dream.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll remember then all their different array of emotions and expressing emotions. So I know that's an aspect. So let's say we're naming or we're highlighting what the emotion is by putting them into the jars, but let's say expressing them. So anything on the expressing or the vocalizing of them, Michelle, any insights you might have around that from any age group, but obviously mainly children at the moment?
Yeah, so that's where the puppets come in, really, because it's an indirect way for them to really be able to focus on the puppets, so the role play of it, but actually it's getting them to think about these feelings that they have. And there's lots of different games and things that you can play with them. Another thing that we use as well, which I incorporated the other day, there's lots of extensions that you can do onto these. So these are little people, you can just buy these on like Amazon or Baker Ross or any of these places. So what you can do is paint them. So even in the classroom, this could be a really good one for the children to get involved with this process, because that really is important for them to feel involved. So yeah, so you can decorate these, and then again, giving them maybe specific time to talk about these emotions, or having worry time where they're able to just, you know, talk about these expressions of emotion.
Yeah, really important. And as you said, getting them involved, so it doesn't have to be always up to not
you know.
necessarily always up to the teacher to do, I know, bits of planning and getting the materials, but definitely getting them on board and then vocalizing their suggestions. Oh, today, maybe instead of the puppets for 5 minutes, could we do this one? You know, and I know it's always difficult. You can't get consensus in a classroom of, 20 or whatever, but, it's trying to give them that element of a voice and vocalizing what their wants and needs are.
Exactly. And it's about adapting to their interests as well. They may be really interested in these colors, and what I have learned, so there's only 6 puppets and they have obviously 6 colors. But with these 2 girls that I'm doing this program with at the moment, they have made a whole rainbow of feelings. So they've started to make up different colors for different emotions. And, there's just so many things that you can just extend onto this. Like one of the girls the other day, she was in the playground and she was up at the top and she got really scared. And she was like, Miss Michelle, I'm feeling gray. And I said, we don't have a gray puppet. And she said, yeah, I know, but I'm making it up. I'm feeling gray. And gray is... And then she's like, gray is brave. I'm feeling brave. So it just gets them really to acknowledge what they're feeling and that it's okay to feel like that. So like that,
so
extension,
creative.
it's
So
literally
creative.
endless. And the children will guide you,
Totally. And like so fabulous that, again, when you present them with tools, they come up with their own ways or their own like strategies with it, with different colors. Because if you said there's definitely more than 6 emotions, I think we'd all be dead if we just had 6 emotions. Probably go through 6 emotions at the moment in like space of half an hour. So there's so many ranges of them. It's so great, having people using their own initiative and their own creativity at such a young age to express those. Really, really cool.
Exactly. And I think as well, it's important to give them tools that when they are feeling overwhelmed with emotions, not just to be able to express them, but to cope with them. So there's lots of different coping skills or coping mechanisms out there. I'm sure as teachers, like lots of you would use them in the classroom. Lots of them being maybe breathing exercises, mindfulness exercises. Children love bubbles, and that's just really good for them to breathe in, breathe out, and relax. And again, you're doing a lot of these things without them even realizing that it's impacting on all of this. So
creative with the bubbles, like such a cool concept, because again, at the end of the day, it's bringing down those breathing levels in maybe an anxious or a stressful situation, but it's not a majorly conscious thing, for a child, even at a particularly young age. Explaining to them maybe that they're doing mindfulness and what the benefits are might take a bit more than actually giving them the bubbles and actually regulating it back down so that they come off from their, let's say, fight or flight stage into kind of a responsive brain development stage, which is
exactly, because
all
often
we need.
When children are in that fight and flight, they're not ears closed, eyes closed, like they're not able to respond. So it's about trying to get them before they hit that fight and flight and giving these skills and strategies for them to kind of calm them down. Another one which I love to use are sensory bottles. So I made this one with the girls the other day. So these are really easily made. All you need is a plastic bottle, water, glitter, what else was there? Baby oil, little stars. You can really use your own, whatever you have at home, really, just throw it in.
And did you put in like food coloring, was it, Michelle?
Yeah, food coloring as well, yeah. And as you can see then, it's almost like a lava lamp, if people remember lava lamps. And that's just a really calming way. You look at it and it's just getting that sensory. And another thing about senses, which is a really good approach for children, especially even older children, because I know we've been talking a lot about younger, but older children, it's bringing it back to the senses, bringing it back to, the now, the here, not focusing on the past, the future. Okay, what's happening right now? So getting into nature with that, and what can you smell, what can you taste, all these different kind of coping skills, to really just center them back into their bodies.
Really, really important. And again, for all age groups, really, not even older children, teenagers, we all need to do that. You know, we all need parts of the day where we can be present and somewhat just switching off and no tech, and just what can you see around you or what can you recognize. And it just doesn't have to be for that long. If people have kids at home, those type of things, it's just a few seconds here and there to bring you back down and grounding. And really essential, as we were mentioning, the sensory. So a vital aspect really to any forms of learning, which I'm sure you would do an awful lot with, Michelle, as well, is obviously learning through a multi-sensory approach. So, you know, that's obviously the most beneficial way from dealing with kids with learning difficulties, primarily dyslexia. That's the most proven track record way of trying to communicate and instill a vast amount of information from the curriculum through multisensory different aspects. So would you kind of, let's say, use bits of the multisensory model with that as well, Michelle? Like, do you think it would be helpful even for learning, not only emotions?
Oh, 100%. So what it does, it just really just calms the body, calms the mind, and just brings it back to that sense of stillness. So yeah, so definitely incorporating senses. Montessori was very, her philosophy was to bring in the senses into the classroom, and learning three senses: sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of touch. That is a massive one now, sense of touch, for coping skills as well. Do you know, Play-Doh, just even stress balls, we make stress balls as well. That's another really good one, just to get that built up, pent up, what's the word?
Frustration, really, or
yeah, exactly. Built up energy. Do you know, if it's not burned off, as as we know a lot these days, it can build up. And I think children movement is another massive one for children, and adults as well. Do you know?
It's so interesting that we sing burning it off. So people obviously think, okay, sure, they've loads of energy, they can run around all day. And if they're sitting in a classroom periods at a time, it's not always possible really to do a huge amount of running around. If it's raining outside, or as we go back in the winter time, there's less, I suppose, outdoor opportunities, especially here in Ireland, really. And there's only a set amount of time, and then if they go home, or if they go to swimming or doing all of these different aspects, you know, it's not always kind of possible to do a huge amount during the school day. There's X amount for us to get through, so they can't always just be running around. So it's really, really valuable to have any tools or tricks where they can, let's say if they're stuck on something in class or stuck on something in their homework, where they can try and release bits of that frustration without having to distract other people's or anything like that.
Exactly.
Really, really important. And you showed me the stress ball earlier, Michelle. Was that a particular type of one? Do you want to show it up to us there? Is there any particular?
I don't actually. Oh yeah, this one. So this one was bought. So that's just like a little mini one, again, kind of going with the emotions of happy. So basically what it is, yeah, it's for them to squeeze and to get up that kind of pent up energy. But what I do is, I haven't made one here now, but what I would use are balloons. And these are really good to incorporate into the classroom, or else you can use them at home. And what you can do is you can fill them with all different types of things. So you can fill them with sand, you could fill them with corn, you can fill them with flour, all of these different sensory, again, giving them that sense of learning through the senses and the calming of the senses.
Really, really good. And obviously trying to have maybe some bit of a clean environment, or an environment where they can throw all the sand and the flour into the balloons.
Yeah, they will need a funnel, and also they'll need a bit of help from adults if they're younger.
Yeah, but it's so
get messy as well. It's important to get messy sometimes.
Exactly, it's important to get messy and have it not as controlled as always. And then there's always elements of, you know, cleaning up and getting them involved in the cleaning up. So it's definitely not always the adults do the cleaning up and the messy part. You know, it's really, really important both at home but also in the classroom perspective that, you know, they partake in that. And it's an important skill, really, you know, that they can't just go away and leave the mess or leave the books or leave anything like that lying around.
Oh, 100%. That's a really, really important part for all children and adults as well, just to have that responsibility. And we say also the importance of freedom of movement within the classroom, and also freedom within limits. So you're giving them that sense of independence, which is really, really important, but also within limits. So, you know, like that. So younger children who maybe are first learning how to pour, you know, give them that pouring exercise at home, easily done, and allow them to clean it up, and they're responsible then for that. And that gives them a sense of ownership, a sense of achievement, so many important aspects there.
Completely. And I suppose they can track their own progress better by doing those things themselves as well, you know, obviously with elements of supervision. But let's say if they poured a small bit or some bit of it fell that day and they had a bit more to clean up, and then they did it a few days later, they might have less to clean up. They can track their own, I suppose, progress and improvement better by, you know, judging really how much they have less to clean from the previous encounter.
Exactly.
And it's just something we all have to do, you know, as adults, as we grow it up anyway. It is something that's really needed in whatever context.
But I think everyone learns by doing, and allowing people to do it themselves is so, so important.
Really, really important. And I suppose it's something that's taken away from kids sometimes from a protection element, or they don't know yet. And it is really, where possible, learning by doing and making, I suppose, somewhat of their mistakes within that type of controlled limit environment is really, really valuable. Definitely. That's so great, Michelle. Any last minute tips or advice? I know we'll put up some of the suggestions and some of the resources down below in our comment section, but any other things that you'd like to leave us with today?
I think there's a few free resources that I wanted to mention for parents or teachers, really. So they probably be more so in the space of the preschool age. So a website which is amazing, which is Education Desti. So at the moment they're offering 2 weeks unlimited access to a free course bundle. And within that bundle, there's different courses, and you can also get certified for these. And in the course, there's one specific to COVID, which is amazing, which is helping children to talk about their feelings. And it's actually, there's a little workbook and everything. So that is actually a really good one as well for primary school children. So I definitely recommend Education Desti. She does some really good free stuff. And Canavan and Byrne is a great one as well. They've got a free downloadable guide for parents for helping children to transition back into childcare. So it is quite specific for childcare as opposed to schools, but I would have a look at it if you do have children going to schools, and there's some really good nuggets in there.
Massively important. Again, it's all about, I suppose, going back to school at a later stage, but definitely going back, you know, adults be going back to work. There will be elements of childcare that will be resuming, maybe even along with the school process resuming at a later stage. So it's definitely all valuable tips, and there will be tips and tricks that will cross over across all of those resources, really, for everybody.
Exactly.
Great. Michelle, thanks so much.
Empowering kind of teachers, empowering parents, empowering children to feel okay with this change, and to be resilient in the fact that it's okay, change, the only constant is change. So there's lots of tips and tricks out there.
Great, Michelle, so valuable. You know, so many different insights and resources that both parents can use at home, kids can use, teachers can use, lots of different avenues that we addressed here today. Again, as we mentioned, we'll put the comments and the resources and the links down below. Feel free to message us directly if you have any follow-ups or want us to cover anything in our upcoming videos. Michelle, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Thanks everybody for watching.